Hi, I'm Beth Kurland, and welcome to 5 Steps for Setting Intentions That Stick, a mind-body approach for empowering you towards what matters. And I am excited to share this workshop with you today. Just have a couple of quick things I want to share as we're getting started. So first, just by way of quick introductions, I wear a lot of different hats. I am a clinical psychologist, been in practice for about 28 years. I'm an author of 3 books with a fourth in the works. I'm a mind-body coach, and I love offering these workshops because I get to teach and share things that I'm most passionate about. Quick disclaimer that this workshop is purely for educational purposes only, and my role is strictly as educator and facilitator teacher in this case. So this is not intended in any way a psychological intervention or treatment of any kind. It's really just for your personal growth and learning. And my agenda, my intention for this next hour or so is to offer you 5 strategies for helping you move towards what really matters in your life. And we're going to do this as interactively as possible via Zoom. So there'll be a lot of places where I'm going to invite you to pause and write and reflect and journal and some short meditations in the process here. And I also invite you, though, to pay attention to really whatever feels right for you. So everything that I offer here is an invitation, a suggestion, but I really want you to make it your own and feel free to modify and adjust in any ways that feel right for you. So when people approach goals or try to set intentions, I wonder, just for you to consider, which of these seems to be most common in your experience. And I'll just read some statements. I have trouble getting started. I start off great, but I lose momentum quickly. Once I hit an obstacle, I get derailed and have a hard time getting back on track. I do well for a time, but then it doesn't stick over the long run. When I set an intention, I create a clear path forward, follow through, and stay on course. So I'm curious which of those you most identify with. I know many people that last one is a lot more challenging, and that's why I created this workshop. So just a bit about what brought me here a little bit more is that I have come to discover in my own life that I live from 2 very different systems that are operating at different points in time. And the first one I call my old operating system. It's old because this is part of our survival circuitry. I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more. But when I'm in this mode, I experience things like fear, anxiety, worry, stress, tension, pressure, self-criticism, striving, perfectionism, automatic pilot mode. And those are modes of being that I spent especially a lot of my earlier life, I think, in more frequently. When I'm able to access what I call my newer operating system, there's more presence, creativity, flow, connection, intuition, spontaneity, playfulness, gratitude, joy, compassion, and self-compassion. All of these things become available. And what's interesting is that these are not things that I had to learn as I got older, but these are qualities that I remember were very present for me as a little girl in many ways, and that I think are present for all of us as we come into this world. And that often some of these qualities, our access to these things, gets buried over by difficult circumstances that we may experience, by life challenges, by just the busyness of our everyday. And when I look back and think about all of the things that have really mattered most in my life, the goals and the dreams that have come to fruition and materialized for me in my life, the things that have sprung forward that matter the most really come from this newer operating system when that has been in play for me. And all of the mind-body practices that I've learned and used and integrated over these years into my life as I look back, I realized that they've really helped me to access this newer operating system more and more of the time. So the tools that I'm going to share with you today are going to help you to access that newer operating system, especially in the context of approaching goals and setting intentions for yourself. So I think of it a little bit like creating this optimal environment for seeds to grow. That you need the right conditions. You need the soil to be just so, you need a certain amount of sunlight, you need the right amount of water. Otherwise, you have the seed that can't fully express itself, can't grow into what it was meant to be. And I want to help you to create the right environment for your seeds to grow and to take root. And so I would like to start off this little journey that I'm going to take you through by just inviting in a short meditation here. So, however you're comfortable sitting or lying down, wherever you are, if you might get into a comfortable position and just take a moment to close your eyes if that feels right for you, or just bring them to a soft gaze. Put your to-dos aside. You might imagine that you have a box of whatever it took to get here, whatever might be waiting for you later on, that you could put the lid on that box, that you could set that box aside. Really take a moment to appreciate that you created this time for yourself to show up here, to show up in this space, to give yourself this space. You might, if you're seated, take a moment to bring some awareness into your feet, feeling the soles of your feet connecting with the ground, with the earth beneath you. And whatever surface you're sitting or lying upon, might just bring some awareness to the feeling of support underneath you. And then inviting your muscles to soften, perhaps inviting in a few deeper sighs or exhalations. And then taking a moment to reflect on what brought you here, what felt important to you about coming into this space. What is your heart calling you to do? What is your heart calling you to? And if you could think of a word that best represents or supports your well-being, what might that be? Perhaps calm, presence, compassion, courage, trust, purpose, enthusiasm, peace. Take a moment to think about what word most resonates for you. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return your focus back into your room and into the session here. So I want to offer you, like I said, this opportunity to access your newer operating system, to create these optimal environments for your seeds to grow. And in order to do that, I'm going to give you a little quick background, because it all starts, as I see it, is in our autonomic nervous system. And so I know some people may be just listening to the audio of this recording, but if you have access to the video part, I will be sharing some slides here as we go along. So give me just a moment to pull that up. Okay. So most of us don't ask ourselves this question, but how is my nervous system? What's going on in there right now? And importantly, below the surface of our conscious awareness, we have this part of our brain and nervous system that is constantly scanning our environment for cues of threat or for cues of danger? I'm sorry, for cues of threat and danger or for cues of safety. And when there are more cues of threat than there are cues of safety, this turns on certain circuits in our nervous system that move us toward protection, that put us into a kind of threat physiology, or our body might be familiar for you, that thinking about when you get stressed, we act in a place of protection. And when this happens, it becomes a little bit harder to move towards our goals. So think about our ancestors who were being chased by tigers. And in those moments, if you're trying to fight or flee from a tiger, you're probably not going to be in a very open space to be creative, to be trying to take steps forward, to be thinking outside of the box, to be inventing things. You're going to do everything you can to protect yourself to survive that situation. And when we perceive threats in our environment, whatever those threats might be, including our own internal cues and thoughts and so forth, we can go into that kind of physiology that makes it harder to move towards our goals and puts us in a more protective space. When there are more cues of, it's hard to move towards our goals when our nervous system is in survival mode. When there are more cues of safety than threat, then we're in a more receptive place to be able to move towards our goals. And that makes sense that when we're not being chased by a tiger, we can create, we can connect, we can see a bigger picture, we can think about outside the box. We have access to all of these resources that aren't available when we're in more of that protection and survival circuitry. So you might experiment for a minute, just saying the word no, no, no to yourself. And as you say this, imagine trying to avoid something or to push something away. Just notice what happens in your body. You might pay particular attention to the area around your heart. Be aware of how that feels. For many people, that can bring up a feeling of contraction and a feeling of tightening. That's that survival wiring that I'm talking about. And now experiment with saying the word yes, yes, yes to yourself. And as you say that, you might imagine moving towards something that energizes you and that brings you joy. And as you do that, notice what happens in your body. For many people, there's a sense of more space, more openness and ease. And now I want to experiment a little bit further. And I'm going to share some statements. And I want you to just notice what happens when I say each of these things. And so I'm just going to read a few statements here. I'm going to do version A and then I'm going to do version B. So again, notice what's happening in your body as I say them. And these are some, let's call them goals, intentions somebody might have. I want to stop yelling at my kids or my partner. I want to stop my unhealthy eating. I want to stop being so overwhelmed. What happens in your nervous system? Just bring some curiosity to your body, to what you feel, what sensations you're aware of. And now notice, I'm going to shift these statements around. And this time I'm going to try to bring some more cues of safety into these words. And notice how this might feel similar or different to what I just said before. I want to create a loving environment where my kids can thrive and learn from their mistakes. I want to have vibrant health and energy and nourish myself with healthy foods. I want to feel centered and focused as I move through my day. So for many people, those first statements can introduce a little bit more cues of threat, especially when we think about things that we want to say no to or we want to stop or get rid of. And the wording the second time around evokes a little bit more cues of safety. There may be a little more space, something may relax a little bit more. It might feel like that's more approachable. So we all have access to all of these qualities that are part of our newer operating system. And the intention of this workshop is to really help you move towards the things that are going to support you in moving towards what matters most in your life. So I want to share another slide here. Oops, I think, I'm not sure if this is recording here. Sorry about that. Let me just pause for one moment. Okay, so let's take a little closer look at this survival circuitry and what I'm going to call our thriving circuitry, or that older operating system and newer operating system. When our circuits of protection and survival are gripping us, we can experience more of that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And that may be familiar to many of you as just feeling a lot of stress in the day, irritable, tense. Sometimes it can show up, that freeze can show up as procrastination when we're trying to move towards something that we want to bring into our life or know that might be good for us. And so our body resources are really getting directed towards fighting a predator or escaping danger. This is part of our evolutionary wiring. And when that happens, our attention narrows, we get more tunnel vision, it's harder to see a big picture, or sometimes our mind can feel more scattered, distracted, and overwhelmed. Emotionally, we experience things like fear, anger, anxiety, worry, frustration, sometimes depression or hopelessness. And importantly, in terms of trying to move towards our goals or create intentions for ourselves, we can feel more resistance, avoidance, and even shutting down can occur when these protective circuits are gripping us. When we have access to our thriving circuits, our social engagement system, the body resources are directed, they're not trying to escape a tiger. So therefore, all those resources can be directed toward growth, recovery, and restoration, and also available for things like exploring, inventing, creating, connecting. Our attention is wider. We're able to see a big picture. We're able to put things in perspective and to think more creatively. Emotionally, we have access to more calm. We feel secure, satisfied, grateful, joyful. All these things are available. And importantly, in terms of creating intentions, there's more openness, there's more space, creativity, curiosity, and possibility that's available to us. And just to say an important piece here about finding balance, that our survival circuits are adaptive and protective. And there are times when it's important that they take over and help protect us from what may be going on, if there are real threats happening in our lives, whatever those might be. But the idea here is that it's normal to move in and out of these systems of protection and connection throughout our day, throughout our week. And it's not that it's good or bad, but it's about finding balance. And when those survival circuits can find some balance with our thriving circuits, they can take on important functions. They can actually give us energy and help us move towards our goals. So when we get stuck in those survival circuits, there's dis-ease. And this happens when we disconnect from those thriving circuits, when those thriving circuits go offline. And again, it's not about either or, good, bad. It's just about bringing those thriving circuits back online to help regulate our nervous system. Because when our nervous system feels safe and regulated, there's well-being. And in this state of well-being, we can see, I love these C words, and I'll just read a few of them to you. Calm, connection, compassion, can-do attitude, clarity, creativity, courage, confidence, contentment. We have access to all of these inner resources and so much more that we don't have when our nervous system is in a more dysregulated state. So let's now talk about what this has to do with you and some of your intentions for things that matter to you in your life. Okay, so I want to invite you to think about a goal or intention that you have for yourself and say that to yourself in your mind. And as you do that, I want you to notice what's happening in your body. You might bring awareness, especially to the area around your heart, to notice if there's more contraction, tightening, constriction, or if there feels more openness, a sense of expansiveness, or any other sensations that you're aware of in your body. And think back to those phrases I read to you a few minutes ago. So this idea is that when we think about our goals, we want to create a physiology that supports a feeling of safety in our body. Because when we feel safe and connected inwardly, that allows us to access that whole box of inner resources, that treasure chest of inner resources that comes along with when those thriving circuits are turned on. So I am going to share my screen for those who are able to see it again. And this idea of turning off our stress response and turning on our yes response. So it can be really helpful when we're approaching goals to think about what it is that we want to say yes to. Often people can frame things in a more negative way to think about what we don't want. And for example, I want to stop smoking. I want to stop overeating. I want to stop yelling at my kids or my partner. I want to lose weight. Those things have a little bit more of something that we're trying to get rid of. And for some people, I think many people, that can turn on a little bit more of that threat physiology, more of that old survival wiring. And so the idea here is to try to flip that around and to think about what is it that we want to say yes to. And as we do this, what happens in our body? And so let me give you an example. Let's say, I'm trying to find the example I wanted to use here. So actually, I'm jumping ahead for a minute. Hang on one second. So let's just take that the phrase that I shared a minute ago. I want to stop yelling at my kids or partner. And if we turn that around into something, what do you want to say yes to? Maybe it could be, I want to say yes to an open, loving, safe, and trusting relationship with my partner. And so just noticing how that might feel different in your body. What happens in your body when you say yes to that versus that first statement? And so inviting you to really look at what is an intention that you have for yourself, and could you flip it around to ask yourself, what do you want to say yes to? But here's the important thing. We really want to pay attention to which circuitry is getting activated in our body, because sometimes even phrasing it as a yes, the words may be yes, but our body may be saying no. And let me give you an example of that. So let's say I want to exercise and go to the gym. For some people, that may feel a little bit like a no inside. Or I want to write a book. Or I want to start dating. Or I want to do public speaking. So if you're noticing that as you say, I want to say yes to public speaking, your body is giving you a no, then we need to work with that a little bit more. How can you frame that for yourself? We're really creating a frame or foundation so that your body can say yes to that. And I'll give you an example of flipping that. Maybe being able to say, instead of I want to say yes to public speaking, I want to say yes to sharing what I'm passionate about and helping others find greater ease. So noticing the difference there, that may feel much more like a yes in one's body than that first way I phrase that. So really taking a moment, inviting you to drop into your own body and mind and think about and create a statement that really reflects what you want to say yes to, and check inwards and make sure that that feels like a yes, or as close to it as you can get, something that feels safer in your physiology, that makes you want to move towards it. And then you might notice that when you say yes to that, what else are you saying yes to? So, if I'm saying, let's say the old way, I have to finish this course to get certification for my job. That might feel like a threat response. It might feel heavy. That might feel constricted. Maybe we flip it. I want to say yes to finishing this course so that I can help people in ways that matter to me. And when I say yes to that, what else am I saying yes to? Maybe I'm saying yes to greater opportunities and connections in my work environment. Or if I'm saying yes to, how do I want to say it, feeling stronger and more energetic in my body by using my Peloton app consistently. That's something somebody I was working with that came up with that, but really focusing on the part about wanting to feel stronger in her body. What else might she be saying yes to that she might then also be saying yes to? I'm going to have more energy to do creative things that matter in my life. So think about that first yes, and what doors may it also open for you? What else might you be able to say yes to because of that? And so just take a moment to reflect on that. Before we move on, I just want to encourage you to make sure that you write down that statement of whatever it is that you want to say yes to. So the next step number 2 here, is working with and finding our beacon. So if you think about a beacon of light that flashes and helps guide ships to safe harbor, and sometimes if those ships might start to veer off course, that beacon of light in front of them helps guide them safely home. So our beacon is going to act in a similar way with our goals. And our beacon of light is really reflective of what is most deeply important to us, what truly matters. Finding our why. Why is this so important to me? And when we can connect in with that why does this thing matter so much? We're broadening out, so stepping out of our goal, and we're really in the land here of more intentions. And I see that values, when we connect in with our values, they really can help fuel our goals. So being able to ask yourself, why is this thing important that you've named for yourself? And gonna share my screen again for those who can see. But I want to invite you to take a moment to think about whatever you want to say yes to. What's important about that to you? And our values are things that can really connect us in with what matters most, with something that may be more expansive, more spacious, more enduring within us. As an example, maybe somebody wants to say yes to, I'll just say, being able to fly across country to see their family. And maybe this person has a fear of flying, but being able to say yes to this allows them to do that. Why is this so important? Really getting at the deeper root of, this is important because it allows me to spend time with people that I deeply cherish and care about. So what is your why here? Maybe some examples, being the kind of parent that my child will feel comfortable confiding in, wanting to build a relationship of trust. That might be a why of that original one we started with, I want to stop yelling at my kid. We turn that around to more of a yes, but then being able to build on that. Or maybe I want to have energy to be able to run around with my grandchildren and play in the sand. Would be a great why for somebody who may want to increase movement or exercise in their life. Or I want to be more present for the people in my life that I care about. I want to bring greater ease into other people's lives. Maybe that's a reason why you want to write that book or create that blog or put out something creative in the world. And really importantly, when we connect in with our why, when we connect in with those deeper values, it activates different neural circuits in our physiology that can help us to move towards that goal, towards our goals. It turns on more of that newer operating system that I was talking about. So just want to share with you a few more examples to make sure this makes sense to you. But the example of the public speaking, so maybe the why for that person is I want to find my voice and express what I'm most passionate about. Or for somebody else, again, putting something creative out in the world, I want to honor the creative energy within me and give it fullest expression in this lifetime. So what is your why? Really connect in with that in your area around your heart. Take a moment to drop in and really feel that. And then there's an invitation. You can take this a little further. And I heard Kelly McGonigal, who is a health psychologist, speak about this and this idea of the 3 whys. So you could start with, why is this important to me? And then whatever you come up with, and why is that important to me? And then a third one, why is that important to me? So you're really getting to the deepest root of what truly matters to you. And I'll just share with you some of the ones that I wrote out for myself regarding creating this workshop. So my first why was, I've been deeply moved and transformed by mind-body practices, and I want to be a creative force for good in the world to help others experience greater well-being. Why is that important? It aligns with my life purpose. It energizes me. It's where I feel most alive and fulfilled. And why is that important to me? It's when I'm living my most expansive self, my authentic self, aligned with this interconnected energy of which we're all part. And why I think some of my purpose of why I'm here, that allows me to really come home, to really feel a sense of being truly at home. And so coming back to the why, and one last piece about why that beacon and holding that out in front of you is so important is that in a little bit, we're going to talk about ways we can veer off course. And that happens. That's normal as we approach our goals. And so when we can hold that why out in front of us, see that beacon of light, and imagine even as you're waking up each morning and you visualize that beacon and you think about, okay, what is my intention for the day and why is that important to me? And you hold that little flashing light out in front of you, that even when you say, oh, I'm too busy to do this, or something starts to get in the way, you can remember and connect in with your why, and that can help give you the energy to move towards what you most care about. So I want to move on to the third step here. So we have our yes, we have our why. And now, really importantly, we need to be able to take action in order to move forward, in order to make things happen in our lives. And so it can be great to have intentions, but even with the best of intentions, it's so easy, at least I know for myself. I might have an intention, let's just say, I want to fill my body with nourishing foods tomorrow. And the day goes and start to get busy, things happen, life happens, unexpected things happen. It's really easy to lose sight, lose track of those goals, even those things we want to say yes to. And so I want to share with you some ways to help really step forward into that more. So in order to do this, we need to have concrete action steps, and we want to focus on helping our nervous system come into more of a feeling of safety, to feed ourselves those cues of safety as much as we can as we're creating these action steps. So again, I'm just going to share my screen here. And this idea of identifying small concrete steps. And the word small is really important because often if our goals are too lofty, that can feel daunting, that can feel overwhelming, that can shut us down. That can make it feel too difficult to approach. I heard someone once talking about writing a book. They wanted to write a book, and the idea of writing a book felt completely daunting, like I could never do that. But what they did is they said to themselves, well, I could write 1 page a day. That doesn't feel so overwhelming to me. That doesn't feel so scary for my nervous system. So I'm just going to focus on writing 1 page every day. Well, guess what? By the end of a year, the book was written. So breaking things down into small concrete steps that really feel right for our nervous system is really important. And making an action plan, really important to not leave things up to chance. Again, we have the best of intentions, but that follow through can be hard, and things will come up. Things do come up. So we want to really try to be as specific as we can. I'm going to give you some examples for how we can step into those actions. Excuse me. So for example, somebody who maybe wants to incorporate more exercise into their life, the action plan here would be, I'm going to leave my workout clothes by my bed the night before, as I go to sleep, and have my workout all picked out for tomorrow. It's all written out and ready to go as soon as I wake up. Or maybe somebody else might say, if they have a goal of trying to work on a creative project, that, all right, I already have blocked off tomorrow in my calendar from 10 to 11 o'clock that I'm going to take this first step of whatever this creative project is. And from 10 to 11, I'm going to work on this introduction part. And I'm also going to enlist a good friend or family member for support. And I'm going to let them know when I've taken this action step. And I'm going to call them and kind of arrange in advance they're going to be my support buddy here. So those are a couple of examples of specific kinds of actions that you might take. Another one is for somebody, and many people, maybe, I don't know if this happens to me, but forgetting to take my vitamins. And I was working with a client around this. So the action steps could be, I'm going to buy a pill box. I'm going to fill it for the week. I'm going to put it by my coffee maker so that I see it first thing in the morning. And that is going to help me to take my vitamins. So we really want to pick actions, pick small steps that can feel doable for your nervous system, that feel like something that you can approach without feeling that resistance or that shutting down. And then once you have a couple of concrete action steps for what you could do to help make this happen, make this as easy as possible to actually happen, I invite you to do a little bit of writing. So just a short writing exercise here to answer this question. If you're speaking to yourself here, if I'm living each day in a way that's consistent with my values that we just talked about with your why, what choices would I be making? What would I be doing? How would I be acting as I move through my day? And so again, examples of really writing in the affirmative as if this is actually evolving in the present moment. I'm a person who wakes up every day and meditates first thing in the morning to ground me and that to help me prepare that optimal inner environment for my day ahead. That's one of the ones I was working on. I choose healthy foods that nourish me each day, and I meal prep on the weekends to make sure that my body is getting all of the nutrition and energy it needs to do the things that I care about. So that's the format that you're writing in, as if it is taking place, and that, I am a person who is making these choices, and today I am choosing to do X, Y, and Z. So by doing this, and I really encourage you actually to take this kind of journaling exercises, and even if you take 2 or 3 minutes the first thing in your day and to write out some statements like this for yourself, it can be really powerful to help move towards and embrace the things that matter to you the most. Okay, so let's move on to the next strategy that I want to share with you. And this one is really important. This one has to do with working with obstacles and resistance. And so I'm just going to read a few phrases here, and I'm wondering which ones might resonate most for you when you think about what tends to get in your way of moving towards the goals or things that matter to you. And so these are just some common ones that people experience: fear or anxiety, stress and pressure, lack of or loss of motivation, procrastination, feeling stuck, disappointment of not getting where you want to be, lack of confidence. So here's the thing, that we are going to hit obstacles as we go along on this journey towards what matters. That's part of our human condition. And so I think of it a little bit like trying to build in a fun obstacle course for ourselves. How can we think about obstacles in a different way, right? An obstacle course is kind of fun. You have to go around, you have to figure out how to go through and so forth to get to where you want to go. And there's a little bit of play in that. So can we begin to think about approaching our goals in a similar way and make it a little bit more playful, and know that, yeah, these obstacles are going to be present for us, and as we come upon them, how do we work with them, and particularly really building in some strategies even in advance for working with the kinds of things that we think will potentially get in our way of where we want to move next. So again, I'm going to share my screen. And so I have here a number of strategies that I want to share in terms of working with obstacles. The first thing is simply to be aware of what gets in your way. Everybody may have different things that make it challenging for them. But if we can bring some mindful awareness to really notice and reflect on, I have the best of intentions, but I'm going to start really paying attention, and here's where I'm getting stuck. Here's where I'm getting tripped up, not because we're beating ourselves up or trying to judge ourselves around it, but because we're being curious. We're bringing that mindful awareness to, what's happening inside me? When do I start to go into that threat physiology, that old survival wiring, part of my old operating system that maybe shuts me down? Can I begin to notice? And in the noticing, that then can inform us, okay, great, that's helpful information. Now I can begin to make a plan for working with that. So this is really all about making a plan for working with various obstacles. And so the second thing that's really important here is to pay attention to that self-critical voice that many of us have. And, it might sound like, if I was more disciplined, or if I was smart enough, or I'm not good enough at this, or I'll never be able to do such and such, or I haven't been successful in the past, so what makes me think that I can do this now? So just really paying attention to whatever that self-critical voice might be for you, if it's there. And the invitation with that is to really ask yourself, is this true? So we have to catch that voice in the first place. That's the first trick. Excuse me. But then to really be able to ask ourselves, is this true? And can we make our language more accurate and specific to the circumstances at hand? So, I'll never be able to do such and such. I'm not good enough to do that. Is that really true? How would we make that language more accurate and specific? Maybe this is scary. This is the first time that I've done this. And so I'm feeling some natural fear around this. But there's been a lot of things when I look back at my life that were new or scary that took me a little bit of time to figure out, but I was able to accomplish them. So that would be more accurate and specific language. Even something like, this is going to take up too much time in my day. Oh, that would be great to be able to do, but there's no way. I just don't have any time to do that. Is that really true? And can you shift that around? Can you maybe make something more accurate and specific? Maybe I don't have time to, um, go to the gym and do something there, but can I create the time to go for a walk outside for 10 minutes or do something in my home that feels nourishing for my body? So really just listening to that voice of self-doubt, that voice that tends to shut us down, and really being able to ask, how can I make what I'm saying to myself a little bit more accurate, a little bit more true and specific? Oftentimes there can be distortions in the things that we say to ourselves, and when we believe them, we take them as truth when they're not. So next is really important one is working with fear. That for many of us, there's some kind of that fear that triggers that survival circuitry, that it's scary to do something new, to step out of the familiar into something that's unfamiliar. And so instead of trying to wait for that fear to go away before you do that thing, or instead of trying to push that fear away, another alternative is that we can be kind to our fear. We could treat our fear the way we would treat a small child. Imagine if you were to approach your fear in that way, to kind of put an arm around your fear, to be a bit more compassionate towards yourself and whatever you're experiencing, to meet yourself where you are, and that it's okay that I'm feeling this. This is part of my human condition. This is part of what connects me and makes me, part of this larger world of which we all share, that many people are experiencing similar feelings. And can I just give myself some kindness as I try to work with whatever's here? And then it can be really important as a next step of this to thank your nervous system for trying to protect you. I really try to do that for myself when I feel fear, anxiety, or stress coming up. Thank you, nervous system, for trying to protect me. I notice that I'm in this survival circuitry right now, and that may be adaptive at times, but maybe not so adaptive right here in this moment. And then when I can remind myself that I have this newer operating system that is also present, that is also available, and if I can just dial into it and activate it, there are all these strengths and resources that I have to draw on that maybe didn't feel like they were there in the moment before that. So really being able to thank our nervous system and remind ourselves that we have this newer operating system to dial into. And so another way of working with resistance is, I love this image of driving in a car, and imagine that you could take your resistance or your fear or your self-doubt or whatever that thing is that might be stopping you, or maybe it's just even the feeling of, I just don't feel like doing this thing today, but you know that it's good for you. You know it's going to connect in with your why, with what's deeply most important in your life. And so you could imagine putting that thing in the back seat, putting your resistance in the back seat, kindly buckling it up, and you step into the driver's seat. And that we don't have to get rid of our uncomfortable emotions to go after what is most important to us. And so when we can relieve ourselves of that pressure, I don't have to wait for these uncomfortable emotions to go away, and I don't have to get rid of them to go after what I want, but I can step in the driver's seat and I can drive this car. We step into a sense of personal agency, but also just giving ourselves permission to have a little bit of resistance or discomfort of whatever kind, that's okay, that can help bring ease into the nervous system. And then really importantly, another strategy for working with resistance is coming up with something, a really specific plan. When X happens, I'm going to do Y. So we make an action plan to really try to work with what's here. So let me share an example of doing that. So maybe if self-doubt is getting in your way, you might say to yourself, when I'm aware that self-doubt is coming up for me, I'm going to imagine just giving it a big hug. And I'm going to remind myself of all the things that I've done in the past, even when I've had some self-doubt or things that were scary, but I did them anyway. I'm going to remind myself of all those things, and I'm going to connect in with my beacon and why this is important to me to help fuel me forward. Or maybe I tell myself, I don't feel like doing this thing today. And when that happens, I'm going to think about my beacon. I'm going to remind myself how I'm going to feel if I take just a small step. And I'm going to set up something small for myself, like if I have this goal of wanting to go walking outdoors, and that resistance comes in, I'm going to say to myself, okay, this is why this is important. And I'm just going to go out and I'm going to do this anyway for 5 minutes. That's all I'm committing to is 5 minutes. And after those 5 minutes, I get to reevaluate and see how I'm doing. Chances are, if you get out there for the 5 minutes, you may want to do more. But being able to, again, make it feel safe for your nervous system, but have a plan for how you might work with some of these common resistances. So just to recap here quickly, we have the first step of what is it that I want to say yes to, really finding something that feels safe and comfortable in your body that gives you some cues of safety. The second step is creating your why, really connecting in with your deepest heartfelt values about why is this important to you. And again, that turns on different circuits that give you some fuel to move towards what matters. Third step is creating really concrete and specific action steps, making them small, not leaving things to chance, being very specific about how you're going to make this thing easier for yourself to engage in. And again, things that feel like cues of safety for your nervous system. And then really coming up with some specific plans for working with resistance, knowing that obstacles are going to be there. Yep, this is going to be like an obstacle course. How can I make this playful? And when I come up against these different obstacles, here's some things that I'm going to try. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to say to myself. Here's what I'm going to remind myself of. And this last step, this fifth step that I want to share with you is really a way of putting all of this together. And we're going to do that in a little bit of a meditation, visualization, and mental rehearsal exercise. I'm really big on mental rehearsal. I think that can be so powerful. I have found that's the case for me in my life. Really rehearsing in my mind how I want things to look and feel and how I'm going to act, and seeing that and embodying that in some kind of visualization. And that can be really powerful then in terms of stepping forward into our lives and being able to access that more easily. So I invite you, wherever you are, to see if you might pause, close your eyes if you're comfortable. Find a place where you can sit for a few minutes. And again, taking a moment to feel your feet on the ground inviting in a few deeper, slower exhalations, or maybe a few big, deep sighs, feeling your shoulders drop, feeling your body softening, muscles softening, feeling the support underneath you. And I invite you to visualize that you are waking up each day living from this place of heartfelt intention. So you might picture this a future self that has already incorporated all of these tools into their day. And see if you might get an image of what that future self looks like. It could be a future self a week from now, tomorrow, it doesn't matter. And just notice, what is this version of you saying yes to? What energizes you? What do you feel called towards in your heart? And how might you phrase that for yourself as a kind of a yes that you want to move towards in your life? And when you get a feel of that and a sense of that, really noticing that energy in your body around saying yes to something that really matters. And then to deepen that further, see yourself connecting to your beacon. That beacon of light, first thing in the morning when you wake up, that you see your beacon in front of you and you remind yourself of, why is this thing most deeply important to me? Why does this matter? What choices can I make that will help me align my actions with those deepest values? And so see that beacon out in front of you and seeing that beacon follow you throughout your day, showing up as that little flash of light, connecting in with your deepest values, your heartfelt intentions. And then seeing yourself taking small action steps that feel safe and comfortable for your nervous system. Ones that are aligned with your goals, with the vision of how you want to live in this area of your life, whether health, relationships, learning something new, putting yourself out in the world in a new kind of way, whatever your intention is. And see all of the ways that you make it easy for yourself to engage in these behaviors. By taking proactive steps, not leaving it to chance, but really stepping into a sense of personal agency, being intentional about the exact steps that you're going to take to live from this place of yes. And as you're visualizing this future self in action, you might notice, what beliefs does this you have about yourself and the world? Can you embody that right now in this moment? What kinds of thoughts would you be thinking to yourself as you move through your day? What would you be saying to yourself? Feel how that feels in your body to take these action steps, to think these thoughts, to align with those values. And feel the positive consequences of this. And as you come up against resistance, which is natural, there may be some fear or self-doubt or hesitation at points. See if you can thank it for trying to protect you. Imagine that this future self knows just how to work with that resistance. Thank it for trying to protect you. Let this part of you know that you see and acknowledge it. You're meeting yourself right where you are. But bring some kindness and care to it. Let it know all the ways that this is just an old program that it's operating from, and that you can take this fear or self-doubt or resistance under your wing like a small child, and let that part of you know that I've got this. You might imagine putting it in the back seat and bringing it along for the ride with you as you sit in the driver's seat, and say yes to what deeply matters to you, to what is most important. And I invite you to imagine this future self, this version of you living your fullest life from this place of deep well-being, is here with you right now and offers you a gift. It might be something concrete, it might be a symbol or an object of meaning, it might be words of encouragement or wisdom. It might be just a gentle hand, or maybe there's a picture or an image that comes to mind. Just see what bubbles up, what your future self offers to you to help you move forward to what truly matters in your life. And then whenever you're ready, you might begin to take a few deeper, slower, more intentional breaths. Opening your eyes, coming back into the room as you're ready. So I hope that was helpful to you. It was a lot of fun for me to put this together, and you can find more information about me, a lot more resources on my website, bethkurland.com. And thank you so much for joining me for this workshop. Take good care.